We know that everyone is concerned about the new recent assessment of the taxes. So we have invited the Cook County Assessor, Fritz Kagi, will be here at some point this evening. He's on his way. But until he gets here, Ray Gottner will be making a presentation with Gail Towers and Teresa Chandler up here, and they will answer all your questions. I just want to remind everyone that when you look at your tax bill, approximately 70% of that bill does go to the schools, and approximately 7% comes here to Palos Park. The rest is distributed through different taxing bodies. I want to thank the Assessor's Office for really doing this to help you understand why the numbers are what they are and how you can appeal those. Also, Commissioner Sean Morrison was integral in helping put this together and may be getting over here as well. And his assistant Kathy Hilton is here. They are here to help you answer questions after this is over. If you think of something tomorrow and you want to reach out to them. Reminder, we are recording this. You can watch it back on YouTube in case you forgot something that was mentioned this evening. Also, our Township Assessor, Robert Maloney, is at a seminar tonight, and he said, please feel free to reach out to him as well, and he can help you with how to appeal your taxes. But we thought it was very important to bring this to you in a timely manner, and when I had a meeting with Assessor Katie just a couple weeks ago, he said, you want us to come make a presentation? I said, yes, give me the first available date, and this was it. So I would present to you Ray Gottner and Teresa Chandler from the Cook County Assessor's Office. Thank you so much.
Well, come on, let's give the mayor a round of applause. Thank you all for having us here. I'm so glad that Ray came along with us too, because that's the brain of this data, okay? So you guys are very fortunate tonight. He's like a star, so I want to thank you, Ray. So I'm Teresa Chandler. I'm one of the outreach specialists throughout Cook County. I'm also the Cook County liaison with the Township Assessors. So if you have any questions by the end of the night, I know the mayor stated that you can go to the commissioner's office, but you can also send your questions to me. And if it's very specific, I will provide you my cell phone number. Is that okay? All right. So without further ado, we're going to get started with the presentation. As the mayor stated, the Assessor Fritz Kagi will be here shortly. They ran into a little traffic, okay? The Cook County Assessor is Fritz Kagi. Isn't that a beautiful picture? That's Fritz Kagi there. He'll be here shortly. So what are the responsibilities of our office? Well, what we do in our office is that we set values on 1.9 million parcels. That's throughout the whole Cook County, okay? That's 1.9 million parcels. That includes residential, commercial, industrial, and things of that nature. Now, we also administer tax savings exemptions on your home. So if you lived in your house as of January 1st of last year, we can provide you exemptions on your home. Now, we also, in our office, we do not set the tax rates or the levies. They're not set by us, okay, for your municipality here. So what do? We operate on Cook County operates on a triennial reassessment. A reassessment is every 3 years, okay? Now during the property reassessment year, you can file an appeal. You have 30 days when your township is open, all right? Now I know this is Palos, but do you know your township? Yes. Okay, that's right, Palos. So the deadline to file for Palos is August 14th. I live in the city of Chicago. My reassessment period is next year. Yours is this year. And Ray can tell you what happens when you file an appeal.
When you file an appeal, the way we come up with values is through mass regression. We can't go through and do an appraisal of every person's home. That would just cost a ludicrous amount of money. So we take the characteristics of your home, things like square footage, number of bedrooms, number of bathrooms, what school district you're in, things like that nature. And then we also go against sales, arm length transactions. So a sale that was good for the buyer, a sale that was good for the owner. And then we model and come up with values for people's homes. Now, modeling can never be perfect, it will never be perfect. And in doing that, if you feel that we're too high or we're too low, you can appeal your taxes. And you do that through SmartFile.
Now, the last time Palos was reassessed is 2020, and you're being reassessed this year, okay? Now I'm gonna let you talk about the valuation, since that's your field, right?
Absolutely. So in Palos Township, I'll say right off the bat, COVID was a crazy time for home sales. We all saw it. Things that you never thought would sell at a price that is unmanageable did. You know, one of the smallest houses in my neighborhood, I live on the west side of Joliet, one of the smallest houses in my neighborhood had a showing, and there was 60 people on the street to see this house. It was one of the smallest models in the neighborhood, and just blew my mind, and that was this COVID. So we've seen a huge fluctuation in sale prices during COVID. Now for Palos, we saw a slight increase. It was at the end about 38%. The median average home is $334. For condos, there are 178,000, and multifamily, which are 2 to 6 unit apartments, we saw an increase, and it was averaged out about 551,000. We saw so there's 14,000 residential parcels that we put through the model in Palos, and we had just over 1,500 sales. So we had about 11% of all the houses in the last 3 years sold. In the last 6 years, every 1 out of 5 houses in this township has sold. So we have lots of data to make our determination on how these prices were trending slightly up. Yeah. So, on our website, which is honestly phenomenal, you can go through and you can pull up the valuation report for Palos Township. We break the township down into neighborhoods, and I don't want to say neighborhood like your street, a larger, broader area of similar like size and age homes. And we model every neighborhood one at a time, and then of course people are affected by surrounding neighborhoods. But yeah, you can go through this interactive map, you can click at where you live, and it'll pop up the number of sales in your neighborhood, the average price, the minimum, or what we see is the lowest sale price and the highest sale price. But you can see the data that we looked at, that we use to make the determination for the values of your properties.
I want to say one thing too. All of this information is restated. It is on our website. We're transparent. There's nothing hidden. If the mayor wants a copy of this PowerPoint presentation, surely she can have it. It's restated. You can look up your specific area, your code, and find the information in the sales. It's very important that you do so that you can see the sales in your area, okay? So if you need this, it's on our website. Everything's transparent.
When you do appeal taxes, you're basically looking at 3 options. Lack of uniformity, meaning that my house is 2,000 square feet, my neighbor's 2,000 square feet, I'm 400,000 and he's 300,000. That wouldn't be uniform. So like-sized age houses, when they're different, that would be lack of uniformity. Of course, there's overvaluation, you feel we overshot the value. And then incorrect property descriptions. This is one of the biggest ones where people get their appeals granted. I live in a world of data, and unfortunately people tell me when I'm wrong and it hurts you. People rarely tell me when I'm wrong and it benefits you. So a lot of times you may have a neighbor who has an immaculate house that's done, they've done all kinds of work. If they haven't pulled the permits, I don't know that. Another good example is, your square footage. When we measure a home, we measure homes from the outside. I do not send field inspectors into homes. I'm gonna do everything I can not to have my people in your homes. Your safety, our safety. We measure the outside of your house. So, if you think your house, if we have your house at 3,200 square feet and you think your house is 2,800 square feet, you would put that on the appeal that we have the incorrect square footage. And that would be the basis of your appeal. And you can click all three of these, that's not a problem, because you do that through smartphone.
I'll just take a moment to say that Cook County Assessor Fritz Kagi has joined us. He made it through the traffic, so thank you for joining us this evening.
Hey, thank you for hosting us here today, Ms. Mayor, and everyone. Happy to be here. I don't want to because this is the business end of the presentation right here. I don't want to interrupt it too much, but I know it's a beautiful night. This is not the best use of your time on a Saturday, on a summer evening, so we're grateful you're here. They've got really good information for you. I will give you some other perspective at the end to help you understand what this all means for your taxes, because just as a reminder, a change in your assessment almost never means the same change in your taxes. It usually means a much smaller change, and we can explain why at the end.
Thank you. So the residential assessment notice, each one of you should have received a residential assessment notice, is that correct? If you have not, we will make sure that you receive one. Okay, we can take your information down.
No, I got a couple of papers that haven't gotten theirs yet.
That's fine. And I'm gonna ask that you hold all your questions to the very end, but we will definitely make sure that that is addressed. So your residential assessment notice, your estimated market value is on there. Your property index number, you wanna make sure that's correct. Your neighborhood code, because that's how you're gonna check to see about your market value that we have, okay? Your property characteristics, as Ray spoke about, and the assessed value. Now, these are very important. So, if you file an appeal and you win that appeal, that assessed value will be reflected on your second installment property tax bill. Can you say anything more about that, Ray?
All right, characteristics of your home. So you can go to our website, you can put your PIN number, and you can see what I and my staff think your house looks like. Now, the things that add probably the most value to your home, number of bathrooms, your exterior construction, basements if they're remodeled, attics, full or unfinished, because you have homes where you may not have access to your attic. And if my records show that it's a full attic and it's being used and that square footage is being used, the best thing you can do, take a picture of the unfinished attic. I have a picture in my office that I love where somebody had their grandmother stand in their unfinished attic and she looks so mad. However, that made the point that that wasn't livable square footage. And we made the adjustment to our home and lowered their assessment. Garage size, and of course, the biggest impact is the building square footage. But when we model homes, we're looking at over 70 items. And our models, the people who run our models are data scientists, and these are legitimate data scientists, that they run through thousands and thousands of models and iterations to find the most predictive, correct model out there. All that information is saved, all that information is online. Every time they run something, it works or it doesn't work, it's recorded and it's put up there. Years ago, we had made a mistake in Elk Grove Township on the condominiums. We had a bad line in the code. We happened to triple the value of all the condos in Elk Grove, and that's not very funny. You can go on our website today. You can see the code that was bad, You can see how we fix it in the code, you can see all the old notices, and then all the new notices that we sent out 5 days after we found out the error that we had made. We are very transparent, we try, and we have nothing to hide. We want to show you what we do, and we want your interaction to tell us when we're wrong and how we can be better. So, after you receive your appeal notice, or your reassessment notice, thank you very much, if you feel that we're too high, or whatever you'd like to appeal on, you're gonna go through and you're going to submit an appeal through SmartFile through our website. It's paperless, it's a really smart, simple system. You can start an appeal, you don't have to finish it, you just have to finish it before August 14th at midnight. You can upload your evidence, pictures, appraisals, plat of survey. I highly suggest appeal narratives. Appeal narratives is where you tell me what you think is wrong. We have been in situations, we had a house up north that we kept getting the square footage wrong. And I had 3 senior field inspectors go measure this house. And they keep telling me that the square footage is wrong. And I'm almost to the point that I'm gonna drive this house. I don't understand what's wrong here. Our 4th inspector, who was in that neighborhood at that time, happened to be in that neighborhood and had heard about this house. They had the garage open. They had a triple deep garage for their RV. That's the kind of information I need to know, because your garage square footage doesn't count against the square footage of your home. That's where the discrepancy was. They just simply could have took a picture and explained to us what was going on, and unfortunately wasted a lot of time and energy. But again, that appeal narrative is so important. Tell me why. All right, so on our website at cookcountyassessor.com, you go to appeals. It is free to file. You, and like I said before, you have until midnight of August 14th. Again, you can upload all kinds of information. If you feel property characteristics incorrect and you want a field check, you can check field check. A box will open up for you to tell me why. Tell me why. Give me a reason. Give me something to hang my hat on. People ask for field checks, and unfortunately, about 90% of the people who ask for field checks don't get them because their field check is, my house is blue. Well, I can see that on the photography. I need a little bit more. And then the next year they appeal and they're mad, well, I didn't get my field check. And I go, well, you didn't tell me anything. And they're like, well, we took down part of our house and we tore down our garage. Why didn't you say that the first time? Would love to help you with that.
So one thing, when Ray said free, you guys should have said free, because I'm sure you all received notices from different agencies and attorneys saying that they can assist you, right? It's free, right, Ray?
Absolutely. You do not need an attorney. You don't need a tax representative.
Yes.
You go online. All you need is an email address and access to the internet.
Just that simple,
That's
okay? It's free. When the assessor Katie came in our office, I've been with the assessor's office for 24 years. We couldn't hardly get through the office because we had piles of paper everywhere, right? But if we've changed that, we became much more modernized. Thanks to Assessor Katie. So you guys should give them a round of applause about that. Because we're online now. We're doing great things.
Thank you for that. The other thing I wanted to note, just building on her point about all those friends that send you mail offering to help, the success rate for people who appeal themselves is exactly the same as it is for people who are soliciting you for attorney business, okay? Success rate is exactly the same. You're the world's greatest expert on your own home, and this is an appeal that's based on data. So keep your own money. It's your money, and we try to make this work for you. So I'm gonna hand it back to Teresa here.
Thank you.
All right. Step 1, get on our website, go to file an appeal. You'll see what townships are open. you'll have you need your email address, you'll go through, you'll create basically, as everything else in the world, a username and a password, because that's how the world works these days. And then you're just gonna begin your application, and it'll just be a set of tabs where you'll fill out the information and just finish by the date, August 14th at midnight. Again, when you see your different types of appeals, you have residential, and there's a different one for condos and co-ops. We approach those a little bit differently, but the practice is still the same as you go through all what you're gonna do. There's also another type of appeal you can file if you just want to give us a characteristic change of your property. I tore down my garage. Whatever you'd like to share with us. All right, so you go in, this is what Smart File looks like. You put in your email address, your password, you hit log in. If you don't have an account, you'll just simply create an account. Very simple process. Then you'll have your choices, and you're gonna look for residential assessment appeal, 2022. You're gonna put in your PIN number. If you don't know your PIN number, which is on your reassessment letter, but if you happen to misplace that, you can put in your street address, and it does a fuzzy search and finds that for you. It'll come up, and you'll hit start filing. All right. Some homes have additional PIN numbers. You may own the lot of land next to you and it has its own PIN number. Sometimes, especially in this, not so much in Palos, but still in this area, you have people whose homes were on two small lots. You know, these subdivisions were made after World War II. Homes were a lot smaller back then, homes are bigger now. Your home may sit on two parcels. This is where you would enter that second PIN number. This is not where you enter your comps, your comparable PINs. This is property you own. All right, you need to declare who you are. Are you the owner? Are you a representative? You're going to, and there's lots of choices there because you could be the executor, you could be filing for your parents, and very simply you just go through and choose who you are. All right. This is the characteristic page. This is a place where my records may say your house is mason, but your house is really frame and you have siding. Clicking this here is going to let us know we need to update our records. You also, no, you're fine. You're okay. Go down. This is where you're going to put in what you're going to appeal on. So we ask, this is not required, but we ask what you think the value of your home is. Now, you're going to choose one or multiple of these: lack of uniformities, overvaluation. Sometimes there's occupancy issues where the home's being remodeled and you're not living in the home. You can get relief on your property if you're not living in your home. And you're gonna have to provide evidence of that, but we're gonna need to know what kind of vacancy you have. Buildings get torn down. You know, we don't always, if we don't get a permit, we don't know that it happened. And I think it would kind of sting that if you tore down a home and then you got a tax bill for that home the next year. Well, if you didn't tell us, we don't know. We can't, at 1.9 million properties, we can't check every house every year. So you go through, and this is where you will search for comparable properties. Now, I want to talk about comparables, comps, as people call them. When we look at your home, because most appeals will be overvaluation or uniformity. When I look at your home, I'm going to look at the 5 closest comparable properties. And when I say comparable, I mean you have brick, they have brick. Your house was built in 1960, I'm gonna look between 55 and 65. Your house is 2,000 square feet, I'm gonna look between 1,800 and 2,200 square feet. And I'm gonna look at the 5 closest houses. Now, when people do this, they often will not be happy with their value, they feel they're overvalued, and they're gonna find one house in the subdivision 4.5 miles away that's just like their house, and it's $30,000 less. Well, it's also 4 miles away. I'm going to look at the 5 closest. Now, if you think your house is unlike the houses by you, this is where you put in your appeal narrative to tell me why your comparables are better than my comparables. I'll give you an example. In Orland Township, you have a lot of houses on cul-de-sacs. Houses on cul-de-sacs sell differently than houses not on cul-de-sacs. So people on cul-de-sacs often will say in their appeal, hey, I'm on a cul-de-sac. I will now look at similar houses on other cul-de-sacs. Another good example is up in Barrington Township, I have a lot of really old, big farmhouses. These farmhouses were 100 years old. They were for very large families, and they were built 100 years ago. People often buy these houses, remodel them, and make them into beautiful mansions. Well, not everyone lives in a mansion in Barrington Township. There are people who live in that old farmhouse with windows that have the thickness of saran wrap, and they're not like those mansions. So often on those appeals, people will put down, hey, this is an unfinished, unremodeled farmhouse from 1902. I'm not like my 4 neighbors that had $200,000 flips. That makes good comparables. You need to give me something to work with. All right, so as you look for similar size houses, they'll come up with the same method that I use to find my comparables. You'll get choices, and you'll be able to select as many as you like. We use up to 5, but you're free to choose as many as you like. Then you hit next. Now, this is your evidence tab. You can upload pictures. People do sales analysis of their neighborhoods. People tell me what's going on. When people have things like vacancy due to construction, they give me copies of their bills, permits, things of that nature. And of course, attorneys will upload their information here. And if you have an appraisal, we like appraisals to be in the last 2 years. An appraisal from 2016 isn't really relevant to today. The world has changed a whole bunch since 2016.
Would you like to say something?
Yes, sir.
And just building on what Ray was saying, when he says, give me something to hang my hat on, what he's really getting at is this narrative section. Because what it is, this is your chance to tell us something that we don't already know. When we're sending out assessments, we actually look at many different comparables before we do that. That's what that fancy model that Ray was talking about was doing. It's possible that we might miss some things when we're coming up with comparables, and that's why you get your chance in the appeal. But the narrative is truly this time it's the most important part of the appeal, actually, because it's showing you that your model is probably looking at my home to be averaged with all these other homes, but my home is not average, and here's why. You can say, hasn't been renovated in 30, 40 years. It has that difficult, unrenovated attic situation. Anything that could detract from value, that's the helpful thing to add into the narrative. And in today's appeals, because we're using lots of data, it's really the more effective thing to mention in your appeal.
Absolutely.
Thank you. So once your results, have you submitted your appeal, your results are mailed? I'm gonna talk a little bit about property tax exemptions. We have 8 amazing exemptions. You can qualify up to 4. It's possible, okay, to qualify up to 4. So here we have the homeowner's exemption, the senior, I don't see any seniors in here, but I'll say, senior exemption, because you have to be 65, I don't see anyone 65. I don't see any, and I wear glasses, and I have a cousin. So, you have the low-income senior freeze exemption. I'm gonna let the assessor talk about that a little bit.
Yes, so it's known as the senior freeze. What the senior freeze does is it freezes your assessed value, your equalized assessed value in place. And that is for seniors whose household income is under $65,000. It's one of the most important tools that the legislature created that we have for preventing people from being priced out of their neighborhoods when they're on a fixed income. And we really need everyone to get their applications in by Friday, which is the deadline. We haven't heard back from 50,000 seniors who had this exemption in place last year. And this is one of the most valuable exemptions, so if you have a senior in your life, a friend, a neighbor, someone on your holiday card list, or someone you see at barbecues, check for them, ask. You can actually look up anyone's home on our website to see if they have this in place, because it's probably worth thousands of dollars a year to the senior that had it. This exemption was automatically renewing for the last couple of years. During COVID, the General Assembly gave forbearance for people. You had to alert us to take the exemption off if your income had gone over 65,000. But now we're back to the rule where you do have to reapply for the senior freeze every year to show that your income is under 65,000. And so we really want to make sure that everyone is reaching out to us. It takes less than 10 minutes to do this, and it can be very meaningful.
Quick question. You did say that every year, it's not every assessment cycle, but it's every year that those seniors should go and make sure that they have their freeze in place, correct?
Right. For the senior freeze, you have to reapply every year. The reason why is people's incomes change from year to year, and so that's why we need that recertification. When we came into this office, as my mom pointed out, it was pretty crazy that seniors had to recertify that they were over 65, even for the standard senior exemption. My mom would point out that we're not getting any younger. Why do we have to do this? We upgraded our technology, got that law changed in Springfield. So for the standard senior homestead exemption, you don't have to renew that every year. It automatically renews. But the senior freeze, you do. And we want to make sure everyone is applying for it by Friday.
Thank you. So we have the veteran with disability exemptions. Do we have any veterans in the room? Thank you for serving our country. We appreciate you. Let's give them a round of applause. So we also have returning veterans exemption, the home improvement, the long time, and the persons with disability exemption. So we're gonna take your questions on the very end. So all exemptions, they appear on your second installment bill, okay? Your second installment bill. That's usually the yellow bill, okay? Your second installment bill. Now, if you qualify, you don't see any dollar amount there, that means that you should give us a call, all right? And you can check all of this on our website. So you can also, on our website, like Assessor KB and Ray stated, everything in our office is transparent. We have nothing that's hidden. Everything is almost free. When you're filing an appeal, it's free. Look for your exemptions, your reassessment notice, free. Okay? You don't need anyone to do this for you. So you can check your property exemption history, your appeal history, your assessment history. You can read about it, as Ray showed you on our screen, to see your values and how we come up with your values. You can check all of this on our website. Okay? Now, each one of you should have received a flyer. You should have one in your hand. This is the QR code that we've came up with. If you place the QR code, your phone over the QR code, you'll receive our link tree. What is our link tree? It's all the information in our office that we have to offer all of you as taxpayers, okay? Also, if you want to come and visit our office, now our downtown office, you don't need an appointment if you work downtown. But if you want to go to one of our branch offices, you definitely need an appointment, right? Because it can get a little crowded. So our offices are open for you from 8:30 to 5 o'clock p.m. And we have 3 branch offices. 4.
Well, 3
3 plus downtown.
Ridgeview is on.
Yes, it's 3 plus downtown.
So Bridgeview,
Chicago,
Markham,
yes.
Skokie, and then downtown.
Yes.
And Bridgeview is complete. Bridgeview, we've just renovated it, so come and check it out if you haven't been in a while. It's all spiffed up just for you.
I also want to say that you have marvelous Township Assessor Maloney. And so I'm the Township Liaison throughout the Cook County. So we serve them, I serve them, I'm the liaison from our office. And so if you have questions, you can also stop at your Township Assessor's office and make an appointment. And if there's something that he cannot address, then he will send it to me, okay? Now, this is our favorite part. That's why I brought all the knowledge up here with me. And so at this time, we're gonna start with questions, okay? Now, what we're gonna do, we're gonna just rotate.
Before we do the questions, I just wanted to close with just a couple of things that I think are helpful for perspective, and then we will truly get to that best part.
Yes.
The first thing I wanted to mention is, you're the world's biggest expert on your own home. So you can do this yourself, keep your own money. The success rate for people who appeal themselves is the same as for people who use lawyers, and you don't have to pay a fee, it's free. It's very easy, so please take advantage of that. Second of all, a change in your assessment does not mean the same change in your taxes. In some states it does. In some states they have tax rates that are fixed. So if your assessment changes, you multiply that same rate by your assessment, and that's how much your tax changes. It doesn't work like that in Illinois. In Illinois, the amount that's collected in your community is determined first. So it doesn't change regardless of how assessments change in your neighborhood. The total amount that's collected doesn't change. What that means is that if your assessment went up 30%, but everyone else's also went up 30%, your tax may not change much at all, because your share of the total levy that's paid in your community may not change much. And that's what drives the change in your tax bill. If you don't believe me, you can look at what happened in Chicago last year. People's assessed value went up about 20%, but the average bill was up less than 10%, was up about 8%. And there were hundreds of thousands of homeowners that had their assessments go up, but their bills go down. And that wasn't the only year that's happened. That's actually happened several times in the previous years too. The reason why is if everyone's assessment's going up, the rate actually goes down in your community. So as we showed in the data at the start of the presentation, home values are up pretty strongly and consistently over the last 3 years. So assessed values up in the community. If yours is up 30 or 40%, your bill will not go up by that amount. I just wanted to mention that. Because it's helpful perspective. Some people get heart attacks when they see the assessment changing by the amount that it has, and that does not mean that. The last thing is that we make sure to walk humbly. We have Ray here, your neighbor. You live pretty nearby, right, Ray?
I know this township quite well. My parents live very close.
Okay, so he is the guy who sees all the appeals. So we got your expertise right here. We all make sure to walk humbly when we do this. We are a couple hundred people trying to estimate the value of almost 2 million properties. So that's why your expertise on your own home is so important in the appeal process. Use that narrative so that you can tell us what we're missing. Okay, with that, let's go to the questions.
All right. So I think the mayor has something to say.
If you have a question, would you just stand up so that the microphones can pick up the question? That's all I was gonna ask.
Yes. So let's just do this just for, we want to start in the front, and we're just gonna go front, second, third, like that, the different rows. Is that okay? And I can call you out to make sure that everyone's question is addressed.
We'll go one at a time
Yes.
so that everyone gets a chance, and then we come back if you have a repeat.
So yeah, we're gonna start up here in the front. Yes, ma'am.
Expound upon the homeowner's exempt or the home improvement exemption? Home improvement exemption, can you give us some details about what qualifies and how that works?
So, you have some work done on your home. You file the permit for that work. We need to know the work that happened. Things that add value to your home, you get an exemption up to $75,000 of that value. So if you add an addition to your home for $50,000, and your home's already $400,000, we're going to value your home at $450,000, but when it comes time to pay your taxes, $50,000 will be taken off that amount at the beginning when they figure your tax bill. Now, that exemption lasts for 3 years. So the next year, let's say you do something different and you spend another $50,000 on your home. Now you're at $100,000. The exemption tops out at $75,000. So 25 will get added to the value of your home on your next assessment. But that first 50 will carry for 3 years. That second 50 will carry for 3 years. And what will happen is that very last year, you'll get just 25,000 taken off your bill. So it's cumulative, but you max out at 75 for 3 years.
How is depreciation handled of certain renovations?
We don't use depreciation. We base it on the market value of the home, sales and the characteristics. We don't depreciate like commercial properties.
And just to repeat the question, how does the home improvement exemption work? That was the question. And we gave you a lot of detail there. The good news is it's done automatically. This is one you don't have to apply for. As long as you had a building permit issued for it, we will be measuring it and applying it automatically. But one thing to know is not all building permits trigger the the home improvement exemption. It's only ones that add to your square footage, typically. So some things like cabinets or gutters or something like that will not trigger the home improvement exemption. So it's put on automatically. You can read all about it on the website. It basically delays the tax impact of any investment you're making in your house.
So, yes, ma'am,
So
you
my
can stand up,
question-
please.
Thank you. So my question was, I would like you to discuss the other exemptions that were passed over. So that was one of them, but there are others, the veterans, the long time, etc.
Yeah, so she would like to discuss the other exemptions. Actually, you have a pamphlet of the exemptions. So we have the homeowner's exemption, right? So pardon me?
We know what that is. We-
Okay, the senior exemption, the senior freeze, which is a low income. You must be 65 for the senior and the senior freeze. We have the persons with disability exemption. So the person with disability exemption, you must complete a P-Tax 343 form that's on our website. Have your physician fill it out. And the great thing about the persons with disability exemption, this year, the assessor went down in Springfield, and now your optometrist, if you have a disability with your sight, can fill out your form as well for persons with disability exemption, right? Also, we have the veterans exemption, returning veterans exemption, let me just say that, that's returning from active war. We have veteran with disability exemption. So that veteran must have, or she or he, must have been in the war and was injured in the war, and it's called service connected. Now, my dad was in World War II. And so I always get seniors, veterans saying that they are eligible for this exemption. They were hurt outside shoveling snow last year. Now, this is from service connected, injured in the service, okay? So it's the veteran with disability. And so he just talked about the home improvement, and then we have the long time exemption, right?
And the exemption for veterans with disabilities, your disability rating from the VA is the key number that is used in triggering that, okay? And we're happy to take more questions from the veterans in the room if you need more information. The long-time homeowners exemption is one of those things where it's created in Springfield and it sounds really great, but hardly anyone can get it. And I wish that more people could qualify, but here's how it works. The first part of the long-time homeowners exemption is you have to have lived there for 10 years. Okay, good. Your income has to be under 100,000. Okay, good. And then the third part is there's a really complex formula where you have to be amongst the highest increases of assessed values of all people in Cook County, and about 2% of people end up qualifying. We notify you if you do. It's usually not a particularly happy club, of people, but we notify you, we'll reach out to you if you're qualifying for it. If you want to read or get a calculation of just how much that increase has to be for it to kick in, you're welcome to come to our office and we can show you go through all the brain damage of that calculation for you. But it's kind of, the name sounds great, but hardly anyone qualifies for it. I think that's the thing I just wanted to leave it for you.
I believe 12,000 qualified. The applications were actually mailed out in April. So we'll take the next question. Yes, sir.
Yes, Ray, you mentioned that you use about 5 homes to determine the assessed value of our homes. Can your office share those homes that you use for?
So, let me clarify. When we're looking for uniformity appeals, we'll look at 5 homes at that point. When we first value the home initially, we're looking at all the homes in the township, we're looking at all the homes in the neighborhood, we're looking at all the sales, all the characteristics. We don't specifically value your home based off 5 other homes. We just use those 5 other homes to make sure that we're uniform on the backside when we do the appeal. Sorry if I missed.
Okay, you said that in this new assessment that the sales were 11% of all homes in Palos.
Yes, 11% of all.
I feel that that's a pretty low representation.
We can provide all the recorded documents of all those numbers.
What about the 89% of the homes, like myself, we're not selling, we've been there for years and I'm retired and there's no movement.
So your question is a good one. So the question is, if you didn't hear it, hey, I heard that 11% of the homes in Palos were sold in the last 3 years, and that's what you're gearing your reassessment off of. I'm in the other 89%, and couldn't that, not represent what's going on with my house? Did I get that right? This is a dilemma we actually have in every community, because almost anywhere in Cook County, only 3% or so of the homes sell every year. And then we only reassess every 3 years. So whenever we're doing a reassessment in the community, typically the vast majority of homes in the community have not sold, and we have to go by to measure where the market is, the ones that did. Now we do adjust for quality. So oftentimes the homes that have sold have been flipped or fixed up or have some other characteristic that makes them worth a little bit more than the average home that hasn't been sold. And you can see this if we go back to the data. Gail, if you could go back to slide 5. I think that's the one that has the numbers. It's the one with the charts. Right before. Yes, so if you can see the chart here, for a single family home, the average sale price, or the median sale price in Palos went from $261,000 to $347,000 in 2022. But our estimate is that the median home is actually worth $334,000. So this group is worth, the median home in Palos is a little bit, we think is worth a little bit less than the ones that sold. Similarly with condos, $190,000 for condos that sold in 2022. We're estimating the median condo is actually
Is that over
$178,000.
5 years? I see 5 years listed.
Yes, that's, we're just showing the last 5 years.
3 years, 5 years.
Right, we're showing here what happened in the market in the last 5 years.
But the reassessment is for 3
Right,
years.
the new information versus our last reassessment comes from the last 3 years. And we actually look back several years, 7 years, to see what are the relationships between prices in different parts of the neighborhood for different kinds of homes, because it helps us to see, okay, in this neighborhood, it's typically selling for a little bit less than the rest. So if there's some homes that are selling in this neighborhood this year, we can kind of figure out what the traditional relationship has been with others. So the model does some pretty complex statistics with it, but the key thing for everyone here to know is that we're looking at the homes that sold in the last 3 years. We know they're not totally representative of the other homes, but our model is probably viewing all homes as more average than they really are. And so that's why in the appeal, if you have things that detract from the value that our model isn't seeing, that's not reflected in those characteristics, that's where you can help us. That's why you're the world's biggest expert on your own home. Okay?
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, sir, I'm gonna take you right here in the brown shirt.
The question he asked about the other 89%. I use the viewer on the map to find the parcel that my house is on. Click on there for comparables, and it comes back and says none. It's a 115-year-old farmhouse.
Yep.
It's been added on to part of this third crawl space, somewhat concrete slab.
And that's the exact information you need to put in your narrative to tell my analyst, who's gonna look at your home, probably find not a lot of comparables. And at that point, we're gonna take condition into account, and that's how we're gonna approach the value of your home. That's,
I'm sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
oh, no, it's okay.
I went to give up, you put that in your letter or mentioned that. I pulled off one of the README files, I don't know if that's the most current one, but there were about 50 features, characteristics that lists there. You mentioned 70 some, so is there
Yes.
another file that I can see the list of those characteristics?
On our website, on the data, on our data website, they have all the features. A lot of the things, I think your additionals are, we look at your distance to transportation, your
Yeah, I saw
distance to
that.
interstate,
Right.
and all that. So that's what I think that difference is.
And if there's a discrepancy, we're always adding in new ones. If there's a discrepancy in the number that Ray mentioned versus what you read, we're always trying to add in more to see if they help us explain
Well, I
things.
just want to know what yarn to spin for his analyst. Right?
Okay.
Tell us
Right
about,
about it, I went on.
no. Tell us about your home, tell us about the crawl space,
Right.
tell us about the age, tell us
Right.
about the condition. That's the
Remember,
information we
Went up my
need.
factor.
okay. In this yarn that you're spinning, remember the key principle is
All for-
to tell us something that we don't already know.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
That's the best principle.
So what we're gonna say, just for time frame, so that everyone can have a question, can you limit your questions to one, and then we'll come back? Is that okay? I'm gonna take her, and then I'll take you next, because her name was raised first. Yes, ma'am.
The senior freeze exemption, you said the last filing date is tomorrow.
August 4th, yes, ma'am, online. Online.
Do it online.
Yes, online, August 4th, online. But you can-
To provide the information about us, about our income,
Yes,
can we just state our income or do we have to show?
you can state it. We believe you. Pay those, they won't tell any lies, right?
Okay, so online, you can do it. Okay, thank you.
The website, it says the 14th.
Yeah,
That's for
that's the
final
final
appeals.
appeals. That's the appeal.
That's
Okay.
appeals. This
So-
is for an exemption.
For the senior freeze, you apply and then you make an affidavit as to your income, and then it's subject to verification at a later date, but that's how it works. So don't feel like you have to make a bunch of enclosures to get your application in. You don't. All you have to do is make an affidavit. It takes less than 10 minutes.
Do we do this on a yearly basis, you said?
Yes, you need to do it yearly.
You never did that before, right?
Well, the last 2 years, before COVID happened, you had to apply for the senior freeze every year. Because people's income changes every year, you have to recertify every year that your income is under 65,000. For 2 years, since COVID happened, the General Assembly gave everyone forbearance, and they said it will automatically renew unless you specifically tell us that your income has changed. But now it's back to, you have to recertify and tell us every year, make that affidavit every year. Okay?
Yes, sir.
When I'm filing my appeal and doing my comparables, am I limited to just the neighborhood that's listed, or can I go a little further out? And if I go further out and find a comparable, does that lose the validity as I go further?
You need to explain to me why way, it's a better comp than the 5 closest I find to your house. So it doesn't lose, if you can give me a reason why that is
Well,
better than the houses by you.
I think the area is kind of, our homes are not boilerplate, if you will. Everybody's is unique, it's a
Oh, of course,
historical
of
area and
course.
so forth. So I think just based upon that, there might be reason to go outside your neighborhood.
Understand, and again, appeal narrative. That's, make that case, and that's the information I need to know.
Can I ask a quick follow-up?
Well, we'll come back, because one thing there, I'm gonna take the lady back to the white shirt, and then I'll take you, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, back to the 5 properties. You are only using the sales, only sales?
No, we are not only using sales. When I say comparables, I'm looking for 5 homes that are like your home, if they sold or not. That has nothing to do with it. Sometimes they have, but
Alright.
that doesn't, I'm not only looking at sales when we're working appeals. When I look at appeals, I'm really looking at characteristics, square footages, exterior of your home. We compare mason to mason, frame to frame, those are the things we're looking at.
Can you cross class from like the class 204 to?
Yes, because you have homes that are a big 203. So a 203 shouldn't talk that way. So a medium-sized, one-story home between 1,000 and 1,800 square feet, I call it 203. 204 start at 1,801. Now, small 204s sell a whole bunch like big 203s. So when people are at those lines and close to that, we'll make that adjustment, and people will make that adjustment on their comps. And that's a fair thing to do, because this is a classification system that the county has set up. Your house and your neighbor's house, you may be a 204 and they're a 203, but you're only 40 square feet difference. That's absolutely fair game, and we'll look at that, and we'll take that into account. We're not locked into class.
There seems to be, like, what's a 1-story or a 1.5 or a 2-story? Is there anywhere that describes what that is?
We have a fair amount of that on our website, but I understand that question because it's a tricky one. So when I say a 1-story, I'm thinking 1-story house, roof, no attic space.
Right.
You get houses that they have a staircase up, there's a room on the 2nd floor, it has your ceiling, you're trying not to walk into the roof, when that angle's very tight, in my world I call that a 1.5, so like a 1.5. And as that wall moves up, that's your 1.6, 1.7, 1.8, 1.9. And then when you get to a home that is just a 1st floor and a full 2nd floor, that's a 2-story. That would be that difference. So that angle of the roof that ends up becoming the wall of the room, that's the determination between like a 1.5, a 1.8, a 1-story, and a 2-story.
Yes, sir, in the black shirt.
How do you handle sales that are grossly over? Bought 20 acres, 11 homes were put in.
I understand.
50 years ago, they overpaid for 2 of the houses, and now there's a 1 million and a 1.3 million.
So when we do the model, what we do, and when I say there's 1,500 sales, those are the 1,500 sales that we felt are arm's length transactions. So when we see sales that look out of bounds, I have a very good example. A few years ago in Oak Park, we had a whole bunch of sales in one neighborhood that were really high. And it just seemed odd. These were all $500,000 homes, and they're all selling for $710,000, $720,000. So we had contacted the city, who got back to us. A hospital had been given permission to buy all these homes at a premium and knock them down. They were building a new building and a new parking lot. Those are not arm's length transactions. We remove those from the model because that's not indicative of the market. The hospital was paying a premium for these homes because they wanted them.
Well, this isn't a hospital then, they just like the location and they wanna put on $1.5 million home on top of it.
Of course,
So they
and
make a
one home-
premium for the existing home and that lot.
I understand. One home isn't gonna pull up an entire neighborhood. It's going to take many home sales.
But that sale of that lot is more than the assessment from last, 3 years ago. So.
Get us that PIN number and we'll talk about that.
Okay.
Sir, with the black shirt, yes, you're in time now. No, with the black shirt, because everyone's been jumping up on his shirt. Everybody has a black shirt on, who knows a different color.
Thank you all for doing what you're here.
Yes,
thank
Doing
you.
for us. Very nice, thank you. Unfortunately, what happens to me is, as I try to get more answers, I get more confused. Because I try to base it on what you're saying, and what I'm reading, and trying to calculate where I'm at with things. Anyway, when I go to your viewer on your website, and I look at home sales, recent home sales, and then I look at the assessed valuation, am I basing it on the home sale, or am I basing it on the assessed valuation that is listed?
Why aren't they the same?
So the assessed valuation is how we see the home. The market value of the home is what we're trying to determine. Sales, we don't know what goes on with every single sale. This is why we put them all together, we look for medians. I don't know if a sale they got a break on the sale because the house needed a new HVAC system. It's a $300,000 home, but they need all new electrical and new HVAC, so they bought the home they got a concession and they bought the home at $250,000. People buy homes at premium. Sometimes we see homes that are $300,000 and they're bought for $800,000. And then I get a very nice letter from the family saying, Grandma's going in the home. We plan to give Grandma as much money as possible. Please don't value our home at $800,000. It's truly a $300,000 home. So, like I had said before, we take those out to the best of our abilities.
Again, that's where I get confused, because what am I supposed to use? The assessed valuation? If you can't tell me what the value of the home is, how am I supposed to? The home sales, the assessed valuation comes in at, say, $300,000, but the home sold for $180,000. Recently, 3 months ago. I'm like, well,
Okay.
which do I use? Because
Use the standard you should use is how other homes are assessed. Use the assessed values. Because we have an obligation to be uniform across everyone. And if we're out of line, if our assessed value is way above market, you can provide evidence to say, hey, you might be uniform, but you're uniformly way too high. And here's the evidence that I have.
and my evidence would be that the house sold for significantly less.
Right, yes, it could be. Now,
That's
so
something
there might,
I list for your analysts, so you
Yes,
know
in
in
the
there.
narrative.
Oh, okay,
right,
now
put
we
it in the
have
narrative. There can always be some unusual factor that causes the sale price to be really low. So if you have a pattern of more than one sale, that is much more impactful.
So we're gonna take this gentleman up front, and then I'll take you down. Yes, sir.
So, you said the average increase in sales was about 38%, it's close to that at 33. If mine went up 62% and nothing changed with my home, why would that happen?
So the question was, the average assessed value was up a certain amount, but my assessed value was up more, even though the house didn't change. What could account for that? The first thing to remember is that houses that don't change can go up in value in the market. This happens all the time. This is one of the pleasures of home ownership. We are trying our best to estimate where the market is for your type of home based on the characteristics of your home. It's possible we might have underassessed it before, and now we're in line with market. But what we're doing when we're estimating the value of your home is that is our best, using all the resources that we have, estimate of your house today.
Yeah, it's just a big number.
It is a bigger, yes, it is a bigger number. So we want to make sure, we want to make sure that your assessed value is reflecting where the market is today. And so that's how you can formulate your appeal, that the way you've assessed my home today is not where it is in the market. That's an overvaluation appeal. Or if your home is assessed more highly than the same kind of home, you can make an appeal based on
Twice the 5,000.
uniformity. That's right, exactly. And we can always look at the particulars of your case afterwards, and you can contact us. I want to make sure that we're respectful of everyone's time, because it is a beautiful summer night. You've been so patient, and I think we have one question
Maybe two
left.
more questions, and we're just gonna go with two more questions, maybe three. Let's do three. Three.
Okay.
So I'm gonna take the lady with the black beautiful dress.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for coming out this evening. I'm a lucky owner of a 120-year-old frame, which there are handfuls of. The three frames near me were all relatively similar. The thing that a few of us are questioning, though, a couple of homeowners of 120-year-old frame plus, is there's some brick homes that have more bedrooms, more bathrooms that are assessed less. And I know I've never submitted before a brick to a frame because it's not comparable. But when their assessment is less than ours now, much newer than ours, and, you know, we're $20,000, $30,000 assessed more, is that the narrative?
That's the narrative. That's a perfect example of where we're off base and where we need to make an adjustment. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm gonna take the gentleman with the gray, and then you, ma'am, and
Okay.
that's gonna wrap.
Yeah, in the years past, I've had somebody file on my behalf the appeal. Is there a way I can go back and look at those appeals to see what their narrative was, what the comps they used?
Yes, you can. You can request that information through FOIA, Freedom of Information. It's on our website, and the only reason, well, not the only reason, but the reason why when Fritz came into office, this office was paper. And now this office is all digital. Anything that's digital, I can give you 10 minutes. Paper files, we literally have to have someone pull that file. But we can do that, and that is free to you. You just have to fill out the FOIA form.
Thank you.
So isn't it marvelous to be online?
Yeah.
We gotta give Fritz a round of applause for that. And yourself, you're the one. So we're gonna take one more question. Yes, ma'am?
I want to just clarify something that I think I'm understanding you saying. Somebody's got a phone. Someone's over here. Okay, so you're saying submitted narrative, which I'm like, that's a letter. You got to write a letter and attach it. Because when you go to your website and you try to type in the reason for you choosing an appeal, you get like a character limit. Like you try to type a sentence and you can't type very much. So you need to attach a letter. That's
I
what you
think it's
need.
120 character, and that's just on the first part of just choosing what type of appeal.
Yeah, it's
But
not
yeah.
enough to write a sentence. It's like I could barely type, my house is old and my windows are falling apart. Like, it doesn't fit, so you have to write a letter.
It's huge.
Yeah.
The narrative is huge.
But she's saying that, yes,
You have to write a letter and you have to attach it.
Yes.
Because there is another part where it's like, type the reason why you're choosing this.
Oh, that's.
And you can barely type
Yeah.
anything. And I was frustrated and I stopped. I also got frustrated at the comparables because it wasn't working for me, but I'm gonna try it again. But
and
what
you
I
don't have to
learned,
submit comparables. That's not a requirement. You can choose to.
yeah, okay, and that's good, but like, you know, I'm thinking, how do I win this appeal? I need evidence, right? And so what I learned from what you're saying is I can take pictures of my house where it's falling apart.
Of
Because
course.
I think where a lot of people are frustrated is my house is being valued that I could sell it at this much, and I know because I have a kitchen from 1990 with floors that are falling apart, water damage, rotten windows. I bought it because I want to fix it, but I can't fix it if I don't have any money. So like, what you're telling me is I can take pictures of the crap and I can attach it and go like, I can't sell my house for this because I have spaces
Absolutely,
for
that is
animals to
conditioned.
follow.
That is
So
conditioned.
I just wanted to say it in plain language because I feel like that's not understood, that you say you're measuring the outside of the house and the square footage, but you're telling people like, this house across the street sold for $600,000 because it had a $200,000 renovation before.
Absolutely.
Mine will not sell for that because I'm not there yet and it's falling apart, you know, and I think that's what people don't understand.
I
So
understand.
I kind of just wanted to say it and confirm it because I think that's what I heard you say.
That is what we're saying.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can I ask just one wrap-up question? Sure.
So, go ahead.
What percentage of your reassessments are appealed, and what is the success rate on that? And also the timetable, when do you get back to the taxpayer with regard to their appeal of the reassessment?
Sure, so the question was, what percentage of parcels are appealing? What is the success rate for people who do appeal? And what is the timeline for hearing back on the appeal? So, interestingly, appeals are down 4 straight years by about 30% or so from when we came in 2018. At that time, more than 1/3 of parcels were appealing. Now it's gone down about 30% from that third. So give or take 20-25% of parcels appealing and on the downshift. But this is putting us in a positive feedback loop because now our analysts aren't spending time evaluating ones where we made simple errors or people were making frivolous appeals. Now we can be spending more time on those situations where we were off the mark because we didn't have that information about what's going on inside. About 25% of appeals result in reductions, about 25%. And that is also down slightly over the years. And the last number is we get back pretty quickly on appeals results. It depends on the township, depends on the volumes. It'll be a couple months.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, we want to thank you all for your time. Thanks for coming out. We want to thank the mayor, the commissioner, and everyone here, and also the township assessor. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.